Hello and welcome to my Honkai Guide. In this video I'll be your sensei and you'll be my cadet. First off, I want to point out that the game has a lot of stuff going on. So I'll separate everything in separate lessons for simplicity's sake. Well, without further ado, let's get started with the first lesson. Learning all the basic controls in combat. I am going to use Ai-chan's tutorials, so yeah, I'm going to check those out. The reason I'm going to do that is because, well, Ai-chan is going to help me teach you. That's very useful for me. So first off, we're going to start with evasions. Evasions are very important because the core gameplay of the game is going to be oriented around evasions. So we'll start with this. You may have noticed that in the first stage when you start playing that there was also an evasion tutorial for you. Now I'll let Ai-chan speak, but I'll also cover things that she does not cover, so we can actually get what she's saying and understand what's going on. Additionally, I'll use text-to-speech for Ai-chan.
Oops, there's a tough enemy that can only be injured under time fracture. Don't worry, just follow Ai-chan's instructions.
Oops, that's my reflex, sorry.
Successfully triggered time fracture. Enemies will attack and move slowly during time fracture.
Prinzessin der Verurteilung
Also has a special ultimate evasion effect that deals lightning damage to enemies.
Not just Fischl has this special ability, every Valkyrie has an evasion skill.
Different characters come with different evasion skills but have the same cooldown duration. Evasion skill is under cooldown now. When the cooldown is over, the skill can be triggered again when the button lights up. Even when evasion skills are under cooldown, ultimate evasions can still be triggered, nullifying enemy attacks. Switch to another Valkyrie to trigger evasion skill.
Now then, to explain what Ai-chan has been saying, is that there are regular evasions and there are special evasions. The special one will have the cooldown, you see in the button below. And regular ones are just what I'm doing right now, is dodging while it's on cooldown. And you can just dodge as much as you want, it doesn't do anything. But once your ultimate cooldown has ended, you can do it again. And with ultimate evasions, you can pair up some quick time events and whatever. You'll see that later on, but it's really useful. And some characters have counters, but we'll talk about that later. When I say you can evade as much as you like, I do really mean it. There is no stamina feature in this game, so you can just evade as much as you want. There is no stamina holding you back. You just dodge whenever you feel like it. And keep your ultimate evasions for special moments, like when you want to pair up stuff. Again, I will cover that later on. These are regular evasions, as you can see, just very normal, no time fracture. No, that's a special one, of course. With Herrscher of Thunder you can follow it with an attack and it will do a special attack. Some Valkyries have completely different evasions. Some will attack while evading, some will attack with a follow-up attack after evading, some will not attack at all. It's different for everyone. Now, completely different from those follow-up attacks are counter-attacks.
Some Valkyries have counterattack skills. Let's learn about Bright Knight Excelsis's retaliation. Tap the evade button, without moving in any direction, for Bright Knight Excelsis to defend for a short duration. During this duration, any attacks received will trigger retaliation, negating the incoming attack and counter-attacking enemies.
Ai-chan doesn't even get the chance to say anything.
Yamabuki armor can also perform counterattacks. Yamabuki armor's perfect defense. Release the defense.
The evade button, Ai-chan. The evade button.
Button upon hit, triggers global time fracture and counterattacks enemies. Let's see a demonstration. Now let's try Yamabuki armor's counterattack on the field.
As you can see, this character cannot evade. So this Bronya does not dodge when you press the evade button, but instead puts up a shield. Keep that in mind for some characters. For sometimes you want to evade, sometimes a shield could be useful. But this character cannot actually dodge when pressing that button. You can only block and retaliate, parry. Alright, moving on to the next mechanic. Weapon actives.
Captain, have you heard of weapon skills? Some weapons come with active weapon skills that consume SP. Weapon skills have cooldowns. When Hersher of Thunder equips Domain of Sanction, the weapon skill can release a single powerful attack. Try casting Domain of Sanction's weapon skill. Switch.
Prinzessin der Verurteilung.
On the field. When
Prinzessin der Verurteilung.
equips,
Mitternachtswalz.
the weapon skill aims and fires at enemies. Try casting.
Mitternachtswalz.
Weapon skill.
Alright, weapon skills or weapon actives are basically similar to a skill you can find in Genshin. The difference is that the skill is determined by the weapon you're using and not the character you're playing at. So instead of being a kit, a skill kit determined by the character you're playing, it's determined by the weapon you're using. So you can have you can change what weapon active you have on each character by just switching their weapon. Some weapons do not have any weapon actives or weapon skills, whatever you want to call it. I like to call them weapon actives because that's what they call it in the later on game. Skill points, SP, can be generated with weapon actives, but not always. Some weapon actives consume it actually, like the of Hersher of Thunder right now, a Domain of Sanction. Actually, it's a key of castigation. Don't ask me why they made it Domain of Sanction in the tutorial. Aichan is wrong. I'll explain that later on. Not now though. It's really something advanced for later on. Oh, by the way, currently there's something else going on instead of just the weapon actives. I'm also using QuickTime events. Whenever I use a weapon active with Fischl, she will do a QuickTime event and jump forward and bash into the enemy, dealing lightning damage. I can switch to Hersher of Thunder while it's pulsating there on the side, and that will also trigger the QuickTime event of Hersher of Thunder. Bad wording of me, I didn't mean to say trigger. To trigger a QuickTime event is by doing a specific action and then making it pulsate on the side. Then you switch. QuickTime events I'll explain later on. Next up, ultimates. No, they're not bursts, they're ultimates.
Captain, have you heard of ultimates? Gain enough SP in battle to release a powerful ultimate skill. Attack enemies or collect orange SP packs to regain skill points. Now, try casting Hersher of Reason's ultimate.
An ultimate ability is very straightforward, self-explanatory. When you have enough SP, you can do an ultimate ability. This will deal massive amount of damage, and some characters can switch to a burst mode. Not all ultimates can cast a burst mode, there's a difference. However, I'll leave that for next lesson. Now, QuickTime events.
Captain, have you heard of QuickTime events, QTE? When enemies nearby are in a certain status, switch characters immediately to trigger the character's QTE attack. The Valkyrie's avatar will flash when her QTE is active. Valkyrie switch has a cooldown. QTE can only be triggered and unleashed when this cooldown ends. QTE will not work if your Valkyrie is too far away from enemies.
Right, so last time with weapon actives I covered what Q2Es are, quick time events, but let's just revisit it in detail. You apply a debuff on an enemy using weapon active or a certain skill from a Valkyrie, use an ultimate, name it, even an ultimate evasion, as we covered before. It can trigger some other Valkyrie who's off-field their quick time event. On the side it will start flashing like Aichan has explained. You can switch to your character and then the quick time event will happen and you'll deal additional damage. What exactly you have to apply to these enemies is specific for each Valkyrie differently. For some it's impair, for some it's lightning damage, for some it's paralysis, for some it's freezing, you name it, it's all different stuff. We'll cover that in next lesson. While we're at it, you see that multiplier next to the health bar. That's how many health bars the enemy has. So for each time you empty that health bar, the multiplier will go down. Which is extra information right there. For next lesson I'll explain what that down next to it means. Alright, that should be all the basics of combat. Next time I'll cover all these debuffs and stuff mean, type counters, all that stuff. What does this all mean? Ah! Well, we'll find out next lesson. For now, enjoy that you can actually see what's happening on screen when you're fighting in combat in all these stages.